Hello everyone, and thank you for your attention and for participating in this stream. Many thanks to all the members of our community who will join later on or watch this video in a recording. Today is, of course, 3rd of March, Monday, and this is a traditional community chat. And well, we are free to discuss any topic we like. If I'm able to share some informative or if I can be informative in my comment about some questions or comments, I will definitely try to be active and engaged as always. And so I have prepared different number of news. I think before more members of our community will join this stream, maybe it will be better if I will go through some news that Russian media reported during the day, and after that we can exchange opinions on whatever topics you like. And so let's go through some news now, and we have this report from TASS News Agency that according to Commissioner for Human Rights of the Russian Federation, Tatiana Maskalkova, 33 residents of the Kursk region were evacuated from Ukraine to Russia. All 33 people will receive medical attention, all the necessary attention that they need at this point. I will say these 33 people were hostages of the terrorist regime of Zelensky, and as a result of negotiations, these people were released from captivity. Also, we have this report from RIA Novosti that Trump is promising to announce something bigger tomorrow. So US President Donald Trump said that tomorrow he will announce something bigger, and we have quote here: "Tomorrow night will be big night, I will say it as it is," Trump wrote on their social network Truth Social on Monday. And tomorrow, I believe, Trump will appear in the Congress when both branches of Parliament, Senate and Congress people will be presented. They're interesting what Trump has to say. What is that bigger? As he highlighted, does he intends to announce withdrawal of US from NATO? That would be big for sure. Does he plans to announce that European so-called elites are planning to go provoke a large-scale war with Russia? We all know that. At least I did spoke about such risks for quite a while now, but that would be big also. What else he gonna say? I don't know. We'll find out tomorrow. Our team meanwhile is reporting that Tulsi Gabbard questions if Ukraine is aligned with US values. Come on, man. What Ukraine, what values, man? What we are talking about here? There is no free press. There is no parties allowed to exist. Many people just disappear. Thousands of people in Ukraine just disappeared just because they had a critical take on actions of their terrorist regime, right? So anyways, let's go through this news. Ukraine and many of its European backers may not be aligned with the US values of freedom, peace and democracy shared by President Donald Trump, according to Washington's Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. And I have to agree with her. She is absolutely correct. On that, Kyiv regime only has one value, which is to rob and kill and destroy as much as they can. That's about it. And I guess European elites have very similar values. Take a look at the history of last 300 to 500 years, by the way. What European elites, so-called elites, were doing all around the world. Rob, kill, destroy. That's all, right? But it is interesting that Tulsi Gabbard is active in public once again. After this is, I believe, the first time she made some public statements after being appointed as a new chief of national intelligence in US. Hopefully, Tulsi will provide the US administration with the objective information, and decision-making process in Washington will be based on realities and not on the fantasies as it was during the Biden's administration. Meanwhile, Vzгляд newspaper is reporting that family of J.D. Vance, vice president of Ukraine, have to be allocated or relocated in some safe space due to actions of Ukrainian or pro-Ukrainian activists that were threatening by their behavior safety of the family of the J.D. Vance while they were on vacation. So family of US Vice President J.D. Vance moved to a secret location after protests by pro-Ukrainian activists at the Sky Resort in Vermont, reports Breitbart. I mean, they're gonna be okay, of course, but it must be annoying that some psychopaths are disturbing them. RIA Novosti is also reporting that, according to media reports, some Trump aides want Zelensky's resignation as a part of the deal. So, aides of the US President Donald Trump consider any deal with Ukraine possible only if Vladimir Zelensky resigns. This was reported initially by Bloomberg, citing its sources, and well, that's quite a strong take of Washington, isn't it? If they are demand now that to do any business with Ukraine, to work on any deal with Ukraine, Zelensky must resign. That's something new. Let's see, maybe Trump will say something like that tomorrow during his appearance in before Senate and the Congress. TASS news agency is also reporting that, according to Kremlin, Kyiv does not want peace. Moscow-Washington efforts alone is not enough, and this is also true. Moscow and Washington, if Washington is serious about the escalation, may achieve a lot, but when it comes to peace, when it comes to this proxy war, there is two main parties from the Western side, isn't it? There is the US and there is Europe, and the European elites clearly are all for prolongation of this proxy war, and it seems like they want actually to transform this proxy war into a hot war between number of European states at least and Russia. I don't know what is happening in the heads of these psychopaths that are in charge in Europe, but they clearly are endangering tens of millions of people, by the way. And unfortunately, I have not seen any protests in Europe. I mean, it is so clear, isn't it, that Western elites, British elites, French elites, German elites are pushing for a full-scale war with Russia. But where is the protests, by the way? Does French people, British people, and German people, or people in Poland or somewhere else that are, elites from where are actually actively engaged in this anti-Russian actions, do those people really want war with Russia? Do they really see us as enemies? What kind of threat I'm posing for anybody in France, by the way, or in UK or in Germany? I don't see them as enemies, man. I never see ordinary people as enemies, and the same attitude has a vast majority of people here in Russia. Western ruling class, they are acting as our enemies, and obviously we consider them as such. But ordinary people, no, man. Even though it is heartbreaking that unfortunately majorities of societies in many countries in Europe actually believed on that to all that Russophobic propaganda and probably are hating us now. Still, I don't think they really want to go in a war against us. I don't know, man. I expect you will comment on that, especially if you are living in Europe. What is happening there? Why there is no protests? While it is becoming more and more clear as time goes by that Western or European elites clearly are pushing for next phase of escalation with Russia and potentially towards their full-scale war, which is crazy. TASS news agency is also reporting that the British Defense Ministry denied the existence of a plan to declare truce in Ukraine. So Britain and France did not agree on a plan to declare a month-long moratorium on military operations in Ukraine. This was stated by the deputy head of Ministry of Defense of Great Britain, Luke Pollard, on radio station Times Radio, and he responded with this on statements of Macron, I believe, president of France, who spoke about some truce to be declared in Ukraine. I reported about it in today's first update. Seems like these so-called elites in Europe, they have some issues with they have many issues, and among those issues there is a issue of communication also, because they should at least be on the same page when they are pushing in this anti-Russian horror stories and anti-Russian policies. RIA Novosti is reporting that Hungary rejected the EU's draft law on security guarantees for Kiev, according to Politico. Expected step from Hungary. And also interesting news that Russian passenger jets MS-21 with their PD-14 engines and their SG-100, Superjet 100 with their PD-8 engines are expected to complete maiden flights in the first half of 2025, Russian Minister of Industry and Trade Anton Alekhanov stated. And once these planes will complete this first flight, then process of certification began, and hopefully soon these planes will be certified to be delivered to avia companies. And these planes, by the way, will be built completely based on Russian technology, everything Russian, right? They will no longer use anything from the West. That's a result of импортозамещение, importer replacement. Yes, that's, I guess, the right word. And this is at least some of the news that I have prepared for tomorrow's first update. Due to this live stream today, I could not make second update on Patreon and Boosty. And so let's continue now with the chat. And dear friends, Nikos did commented quite a number of times. I will go through at least several of these comments. Hello, Levan. I'm going to leave you a long comment for you to read, and hopefully it will get through. Yesterday, events were justice. President Trump told exactly what we were all thinking. We will not be dragged into World War III because of Zelensky. Unfortunately, Europe won't stop. They'll never stop. Europe will send their troops and they will start World War III. I am sure for Russian people. I'm sorry for Russian people who once again have to go through such an experience. I hope you are ready. I hope you are strong and have faith in your president. What can I say? I hope we are ready, by the way. I really hope. And when it comes to topic of World War III, if US is out of this proxy war, which is not necessarily the case for now, isn't it? It's just statements at this point, maybe first few steps, but US largely still engaged in this proxy war against Russia, and more steps needed to be sure that yes, Trump's administration is serious about the escalation between US Russia. But anyways, if US is out of this proxy war, European elites, if they have no faith that by provoking full-scale war with Russia, they will be unable to bring US in again, then they might think twice, because they should know that they have no chances, right? They should know they have no chances. But for now, what we have is that seems like European elites believe actually that if they provoke next phase of escalation, including by deploying their troops, then one way or another, US will get involved again in this proxy war and will fight alongside these psychopaths that are in charge in some of the European states, namely UK, France, Germany, some others, by the way, Poland, for example. All right. Risk is real. Risk is real of next phase of escalation and direct clashes between Russian and NATO troops. Today, by the way, in Ireland, one of the officials was not careful enough, and he said something that should not be said this openly for now, I guess. So Ireland plans to revise defense rules to deploy troops in Ukraine without UN approval and provide 100 million in non-lethal military aid. So second part is okay, irrelevant, but Ireland plans to revise defense rules to deploy troops in Ukraine without UN approval. That's the part of the statement that is extremely telling and dangerous, isn't it? And what I was saying from the beginning, that there can be no European or NATO peacekeepers in Ukraine because mandate for a peacekeeping operation is issued by UN, right? UN, all these peacekeeping operations all around the world, by the way, are done under UN umbrella. Without UN mandate, these are not peacekeepers. Any troops that are deploying in the conflict zone are combatants. That's how it is. And whoever in the I shared this information from one of the Telegram channels, by the way, but and I don't know who exactly said this, Prime Minister of Ireland or someone some other official, but this was a slap. These statements slip, I guess, because it was too early, I guess, for Western elites to share with the public that they are actually planning to deploy their troops as a combatants, because that's what it means. Without UN mandate, you are a combatant, not a peacekeeper. Nothing to be said about Moscow's principal position that no NATO troops will be acceptable on in Ukraine, right? So they are planning, by the way, they are planning next phase of escalation, and they will go ahead with it. And on topic of question from Nikos, are we ready here in Russia? I hope so. I hope so. You know, well, if war is coming, if next phase of escalation is inevitable, then we don't really have a choice, isn't it? Or the options. We have to be ready, and we have to defend ourselves, our society, our way of life from these aggressors, and we will do it. We will do it. And on topic of preparation of Russia, I posted on my Telegram this news that Russia will test its emergency warning system on March 5. TV and radio will broadcast their attention everyone signal accompanied by the sounds of electric stands, electric sirens, and louder speakers. So all around Russia there will be this large-scale testing of the emergency warning system on TV, on radio, on the streets, through loudspeakers, on internet. And even though such tests are conducted on regular basis, I think many people will think that here in Russia and outside of Russia that probably Moscow is preparing. Moscow is preparing for a potential next phase of escalation in which European states, European armies will be involved in hostilities in higher level than it was until now. And we all know that European troops were involved in this proxy war against Russia. All these long-range strikes deep into Russian territory with their Western weapon systems were done with active involvement of the officers of Western intelligence and their armed forces. Also, there were many instances, according to reports, when as a result of combat operations, dozens of, let's say, SAS fighters, for example, were exterminated, right? And then bodies of these SAS killed terrorists were transferred to British side. Even even head of Wagner Group once spoke about it. If you remember, Prigozhin even once spoke about it on video, that Wagnerites were involved to transfer SAS, bodies of their killed SAS terrorists to British side, right? And I'm saying terrorists, by the way, intentionally. I have no respect for SAS, especially after recent revelations that it was SAS fighters that were killing kids, children, women, elderly in Afghanistan, and without mercy, by the way. They are exterminating everybody they see, as it, as some sort of fun game. So after that, I don't think anybody can respect British Armed Forces or their SAS, by the way. They are just mass murderers and terrorists, period, right? I did not see any apologies from British government for actions of the SAS. I did not see any SAS members were bring to the justice. So that was approved by regime itself, right, in UK. So all of them are freaking terrorists, man. But that's a different story. Fact itself is undeniable that UK, France, many other countries lost quite significant number of their special forces units and their military personnel, intelligence personnel during this proxy war against Russia already. But unfortunately, we are heading towards the situation when European elites will drag their armies into this proxy war against Russia in much larger scale. That's what it is. Once again, dear friends, hello everyone, and thank you for your attention. John Dickinson is here. Hello, John. Nidish Kumar is here. Danielle is here. Everybody, hello everybody. And so let's go through some other comments now and questions. Nidish Kumar has a question. Levan, do you really trust Trump? If he gets a real monetary benefits, he will do anything for anyone. It's just that simple. He behaves like a extortionist. Well, I don't believe Trump, by the way. I have no trust towards anybody when it comes to Western elites, US or Europe. And I think Russian leadership has very similar attitude. It's not about trust. It's not about trust. It's about analytics. It's about creating mechanisms to ensure that if any agreement, let's say between Russia and US, are reached, then these agreements will actually work and would not be annulled in a week's time or 2 weeks' time or in years' time, right? But trust, no. We don't trust nobody, by the way. Especially when it comes to Western elites. How can we? Isn't it? It's not even a question. But when it comes to US, we also analyzing the situation, isn't it? Currently, collective West is facing reality in which either US and Europe basically are going down together, or US is drifting away from Europe and saving itself. And US alone definitely has more chances. And it's not about US as a state, by the way. It's about, because we all know that real decision makers are some groups of interests that are pulling the strings, isn't it? And there are different groups in Europe, in US, and if it comes to US, as far as I understand, I think these groups and finally realize that there is just this option that they have. Either they are going down together with the European elites, or they are drifting away, they are moving away US, and they're becoming engaged in the formation of a new architecture of the world security, which will maintain US positions, at least in some form, as a major or key player in this world, while Europe has no chances at all. Europe, only chance Europe has is if they were together with Russia. And they had such a chance, really. You remember, Russian leadership was quite open about cooperation with Europe, and there was talks that this free and fair economical market will be built from Lisbon in Portugal to Vladivostok, far east of Russia, isn't it? We remember all these talks, by the way, some like decade or 15 years ago. But what happened after that? European elites drastically changed their behavior, their attitude towards Russia, become extremely hostile, right? And eventually we are where we are right now, when there is almost no relationships left between Europe and Russia. And without Russia, Europe is doomed, by the way. Objectively speaking, Europe has EU, let's say. EU has no energy to run its economy. EU cannot... EU has nothing, really. Right? EU has nothing that will allow it to sustain itself, at least on the current level, which is not that great, but at least on the current level. But US has all the necessary means to maintain itself and maybe even grow a little bit, right? And that's why I think groups that are behind the Trump's administration are serious. They are financing God knows how many think tanks, isn't it? And they are trying to have opinion of as clever people as they can reach out to. And probably after some thorough work was done on analysis was done about prospects of their collective West, I guess these groups that are prioritizing US finally realized that, I mean, they have to move away US from Europe, otherwise they will go down together. And I don't think US elites want that, you know. And if this is the case, then I guess Trump's administration may be serious about the escalation. But still, in any case, obviously, if talks continue between Moscow and Washington, some mechanisms have to be put in place to make sure that agreements, if they are reached between the sides, are actually implemented and did not destroyed by, let's say, US administration after the week or 2 weeks or by next administration. And by the way, one more topic, I think neolibs in US and globalist puppets in US are weakened. They're so much so at this point that most likely next administration in US also will be from Republicans, right? And as far as I understand, Republicans are actually behind the Republicans are actually these forces that are prioritizing US. I hope I'm explaining my understanding of the situation well enough, but definitely it's not about trust in this. We don't trust nobody when it comes to Western elites, man. How can we? We can't. Truth Gambit is commenting, US aid spent millions of dollars teaching Ukrainians to hate Russians for decades to get this war. Absolutely agree with you, dear friend. This political Ukrainianism, Ukrainian Nazism, fascism ideology, and their Russia hatred, this is generated way before USAID or even US existed, by the way, right? This idea originally, I mean, if there are historians among us right now, they can correct me if I'm wrong, but initially, this idea of political Ukrainianism was generated in UK, in Britain, by the way, in British Empire. And then this idea was imported into Germany, right? And it was a Bismarck, if I remember correctly, that said that if you want to weaken Russia, you have to push this narrative that these people that are living on these territories that called Ukraine, Poles were calling that area, southern areas of modern Ukraine, Ukraine, which means outskirts, right? And then that word migrated into Russian language, and in Russian that territory was called also Ukraine, although mainly Novorossiya, by the way, but that's a different story. It was a Bismarck, I believe, who was saying that if you want to weaken Russia, you have to put in heads of people there on that Ukraine, on that outskirt area that was at the time controlled by Poles, although that territory was shifting, changing hands between Russia and Poland, Lithuanian Commonwealth quite often. But anyways, Bismarck, that was Bismarck that saying, you have to put this seed of this madness that these people in Ukraine on outskirts are the different ethnic group. They are not to Poles, not to Hungarians, not to Russians, not to Belarusians. They are Ukrainians. They are separate ethnic group. And if you do that successfully, then you might actually create a significant rift into Russian world, inside the Russian world, right? And unfortunately, Bismarck was correct. This idea was generated in UK. They start pushing this first, but then Germany, imported this idea, and then they were pushing this quite actively. And dear friends, you tell me how come that when Bolsheviks, and Lenin, by the way, very suspiciously was transported to empire, Russian Empire, by whom? By Germans, right? Germans provided. Train, I believe, Germans orchestrated that move of Lenin into Russian Empire, isn't it? People are arguing, was Lenin German asset or not, but how come that when these Bolsheviks overthrow the government, one of the first what they did, they created Ukraine. First time in history they created a quasi-state Ukraine, Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic, and where they created this Ukraine? On Russian territory. On Russian territory, by the way. Later on, Stalin, of course, took some land from Poland, Czechoslovakia at the time, and also Romania, although, by the way, territory that was taken from Czechoslovakia before First World War was part of Hungary, and that's why in Transcarpathia Hungarians are living, right? Hundreds of thousands of ethnic Hungarians. But yet again, that's a different story. How come that these Bolsheviks, what they did, one of the first what they did, they created this political nonsense Ukraine that never existed before. You tell me, was Lenin and the Bolsheviks, all these crazies, by the way, assets of German or British intelligence or no? But they created the Ukraine. They don't have to do this. It was nonsensical, but they did it. And eventually, after so many decades, descendants of those British and German elites did manage to provoke civil war inside the Russian world, because unfortunately millions of people in so-called Ukraine, especially in the Western Ukraine, by the way, actually start believing that they are not Russians, they are not Poles, they are not Hungarians, they are Ukrainians now, descendants of some Ukros and God knows what, man. If you go into Ukraine and read what they writing about their ancestry, you're gonna go crazy, man. It's a total nonsense there, right? And that's why, by the way, one of their founders of, for example, Right Sector, this Nazi-fascist organization that was actively participating in a coup d'etat in 2014 was a Hungarian, ethnic Hungarian. But brainwashed so much so that he forget about his Hungarian roots, and he really start believing that he is Ukrainian. It is what it is, man. So this story, by the way, of creation of this political Ukrainianism goes way beyond the USAID, but USAID in modern times, USAID definitely play a critical role to finance all these Nazi and fascist organizations in Ukraine, and to promote and to finance, by the way, so-called media in Ukraine to promote Russia hatred. And unfortunately, they succeed in it. Yet again, especially in the western parts of Ukraine. Wisdom is commenting Europe and UK peace plan. If there is a peace, we will deploy the military. If there is no peace, we will support continuing fighting. Essentially, warmongering in both scenarios, which is insane. I agree with you, dear friend. But yet again, I just read a few minutes ago the statement from Ireland, isn't it? I think some high-ranking official there, it was a slap from his. He should not say that this openly, this yearly, during this preparation by European elites of this further escalation with Russia. But he said it openly, isn't it? That they have to change their defense policies or something in order to deploy troops without UN authorization as a sort of peacekeepers. This is all nonsense, by the way. They are misleading people, misleading public in the West big time, but unfortunately, very few talking about this, isn't it? And alternative media that tries to combat this insane propaganda of the European elites is in no position right now to really challenge the mainstream media. Which is unfortunate, but Danny the Wall is commenting, you should see what our authorities will do to us if we protest. Plenty of that on YouTube. I have to agree with you, Danny. Unfortunately, yes, there is a fear. Obviously, there is a fear, and for a reason that if people will protest these insane policies in UK or in France, they might be smashed by the system. Yes, I can understand that fear, but what should we do? I mean, you tell me, dear friend, what should we do really? None of us want this war to happen in the first place, and none of us want this proxy war that West is waging against us to further escalate, potentially into a direct conflict between European states and Russia. None of us want that, isn't it? And what we can do to avoid this scenario? I mean, that's the question for $1 million, isn't it? I cannot do nothing because I live in Russia, by the way. All I can do is say publicly that we are not your enemies, guys. We are not your enemies, man. We don't want to go to France and occupy France, and we don't want to go to in Poland and occupy Poland, or in UK or in Iceland, by the way. It's beautiful places, by the way. I mean, beautiful places, beautiful people, but we want to stay here, by the way, and we want to be left alone. That's all, But your elites, it's your elites, by the way, that are constantly targeting us. So, I mean, you tell me what we as a world community should do to avoid next phase of escalation, because I don't know. We should do something, I guess, but I don't know, man. And as Nikos said, by the way, in the beginning, in his comment, well, it seems like, yes, European elites really pushing toward this next phase of escalation. And yes, I have to agree. But I was talking about it for so long now. I don't know. Something has to be done. But I can see your point also that people are afraid. I mean, people might see that, policies that are elites in UK or France or Germany or in Poland are pushing is dangerous. But there is a fear also that if they go out and protest, especially if protest is a small scale, if millions of people protest simultaneously, that might be a whole different story. But if small protests, by the way, they might be crushed. People might lose their jobs, their businesses. In some cases, maybe even freedom or the life. So therefore, yes, I can understand your point. I still remember, by the way, there was a Dr. Cayley, isn't it, in UK, UN weapons inspector, who was saying right before US and UK launched this military operation against Iraq, which was based on false narratives that Iraq had some weapons of mass destruction, isn't it? And this British scientist, it was Cayley was his surname, I believe. He was saying openly that according to all the expertise, all the work that was done by UN experts, Iraq has no WMO, right? Weapons of mass destruction. And he was silenced, by the way. He died, after some time when he became publicly critical of it was a blur at the time, isn't it? Government of the UK for British potential involvement in this war that was based on lies. He was found dead, and the media reported that he drank too many pills or something. He was silenced, isn't it? He was killed by British Secret Services, 100%. Right? So I can understand that people may have fright, but still we have to do something. We have to do something. These crazies that are pushing for further intensification of their hostilities, they have to be stopped one way or another, but we have to. True Gambit is commenting, I don't like that Rubio said Russians don't care about the lives of their people. Rubio is reckless and wrong and is not in unison with the Trump message of peace to Russia. I don't see that. I did not read that exactly statement from Rubio, but unfortunately, dear friends, many people, including in the public, including public figures, are big time influenced with Western propaganda, faulty propaganda, isn't it? Even though there is no evidences of human wave of attacks. There is no such evidences, by the way, right? Everything is filmed nowadays. There is drones everywhere, and the dozens of videos are published every single day, right? And there is no evidences of human wave attacks. But British propaganda still pushes that Russia is using human wave attacks. Those people in British or French or German media that are pushing, or other media outlets in US, for example, especially globalist media, globalist controlled media, those people, those so-called journalists who are saying that Russia is using human waves, they probably have no idea this terminology is coming from, what that human wave attack even means, right? But in their attempts to demonize Russia, to demonize Russian leadership, they are using whatever they can use, right? Whatever lie they can use, isn't it? And I guess if Rubio said that Russians don't care about the lives of their people, I mean this craziness also comes from very same Western propaganda, isn't it? That we don't care about casualties and that kind of nonsense. I mean, how can I comment seriously on that? I mean, he is mistaken if he really thinks that we don't care about lives, then well, I feel sorry for him, because he have so much to learn about us, So many Russian soldiers, by the way, died just because they were acting extremely carefully on the line of contacts to make sure that no civilians are hurt as a result of military operations. And how can anybody say that Russians don't care about lives or Russian leadership? I mean, this is it's nonsense, man. You cannot take this seriously. But hopefully they will learn. Now Tulsi Gabbard is in charge of national intelligence in US, isn't it? And hopefully she will really work as a profi and will make sure that high-ranking officials in US, including Rubio and Trump and everybody else, has real information. Real information. Not some nonsensical fake stuff that Western propaganda is pushing, but real information. That will be helpful, for sure. Peter Prowain is commenting, I'm a real American who has now lived in Russia for almost 2 years. Russians are amazing and good people. They never wanted this war. 100% agree with you, Ilan. Oh, thank you, and I hope you have great experience here in Russia. And I'm quite sure, dear friend, that more and more people from collective West countries gonna migrate to Russia, because I really believe Russia is the last stronghold of normality in a Western world. Let's say, if we characterize Western world as a Christian world. So I expect waves of migrations from the Western countries, and they are welcomed. By the way, all good people are welcomed, no matter from where. But I believe there will be wave of migrants from West, and of course, we never wanted this war. By the way, last what we want is war. We don't think about war. We don't want it. But at some point, I mean, you can be pushed only so much sorrow, isn't it, before you will really start reacting. No matter how peace-loving you are or how much you want to avoid escalation. At some point, you just have to react. I mean, that's how it is. And I think we are at that point right now and for last several years. Nidish Kumar is commenting, Levan, they are against communism, culture, patriotism, religion, native language, not because of ideological differences. As long as above things exist, it's difficult for elites to steal resources. I have to agree with you, Nidish. I think to control, to divide and control, globalists choose, in one sense, probably all of us can be said that, we all are also globalists in a way, but because we want humanity to get united, we want countries and nations to cooperate with each other, isn't it? We don't want wars and all that kind of stuff. But same time, we want original cultures, histories, countries to preserve, isn't it? Because that's what gives uniqueness to us, to humans, right? To human civilization. But Western globalists, they don't see things that way. I believe they want gray mass. They want humanity to be transformed into some gray mass where there is no culture, when people have no culture, no history, no tradition, no nothing, not even gender, by the way, just a gray mass. Because, to operate with such a gray mass is much easier, I think, than to manipulate with people that have their own history, culture, traditions, their own understanding what is good and what is wrong, right? So I agree with you. They clearly are attacking everything that we cherish, isn't it? Culture, traditions, everything good. They are against it because they want just slaves, by the way, slaves that have no opinion on anything. That's why they are attacking everything that you said, by the way, traditions, culture, ideas of patriotism, and so on. I agree with you absolutely. They are evil, by the way. These globalists are evil force, and I said it many times. They are existential threat for all of us, no matter where we are living, Christopher, repeat question. Christopher Lev, do you want to speak with the Swedish no-hater experts? Dear friend, if you mean to invite on my channel, I would love to, by the way. I would love to invite guests, but because to access YouTube, I am using VPN. I cannot invite guests right now because, as you can see, dear friends, quite often there are some technical issues with buffering, isn't it? And it's not okay when you are inviting guests and while asking question or listening to an answer, there is some technical issue and buffering there, and community cannot watch video properly or hear properly. For community chat, by the way, when we just exchange opinions, you know, we can deal with this together, right? These technical issues. But when you are inviting guests, that's a whole different story, isn't it? You have to be prepared well. And as long as it's VPN that I have to use to access YouTube, unfortunately, I will not be able to invite guests. But if someone will invite me somewhere, I don't know if it's I mean, I don't see issue with that. I've been invited quite a few times, sir, but you know, I'm a host of quite a small channel, by the way, compared to big names, isn't it? And except our community, no one knows me, right? No one knows my opinion, what I think about different stuff. So therefore, I don't know if your Swedish experts that you are talking about would really want to speak to me. I just don't know. But one day, hopefully, these restrictions will be removed here in Russia. YouTube will be accessible without VPN again, and I will definitely start to invite guests, as I was doing before, by the way. I did invite quite a few times guests, and then, unfortunately, you know, it has become technically difficult. I hope I did answer to your question. But when it comes to communication, I don't have an issue to talk to anybody, really. You know, not to Nazis and fascists, by the way. I don't have anything to. I don't have time to spend on talking to some crazies. But with ordinary people like us, you know, why not? Miss Me with it comments. Did you ever hear stories about Tartaria growing up, maybe from grandparents or older history books? No, not from history books. You're not gonna find this in history book, dear friends. But there are many theories that are circulated. And there are books also, by the way, written on the topic of Tartaria. But this is not mainstream history science, right? And on YouTube, there are different channels that are working on this topic of Tartaria. I'm not going to tell you that I know much about it. So therefore, I heard about this, but I don't know much about it. Really, I grew up on I will say mainstream history, mainstream science, and that's where I am in this regard. And I'm not saying, by the way, that you know, this is true and this is false or anything. No, I'm open-minded, but I'm just telling you on what my knowledge is based when it comes to history, for example. Just classical history books, classical historians, at this point classics, by the way, that are well respected in the field, but still there is so much more to be learned, isn't it? So therefore, I'm open-minded. I never say that, you know, some theories are not right or wrong just because I have no idea about it. No. I have no idea about so many things, by the way, that, you know. But in mainstream literature, by the way, in mainstream history books, you're not going to find much about Tartaria. That's for sure. Levan, Nidish is commenting, Levan, France just backstabbed Greece by siding with Turkey. Ukrainian people must understand it. Really, I don't know what happened. Nidish, I don't know what happened between France and Turkey. I mean, relationships between France and Turkey was quite tense, isn't it? And after this stream, I'm gonna check some reports in the media. By the way, I don't know what happened and what changed in relationships between France and Turkey, but they used to be on quite hostile terms towards each other. By the way, so did they backstab Greece? Wow, that's quite stuff, isn't it? But Greece is in a difficult position, by the way, due to these globalist puppets in the government and heavy anti-Russian propaganda. Unfortunately, Greece now is in a position when it cannot rely on Western Europe, for sure. Greece lost her natural ally that Russia was, and now Greece is facing ever more imperialistic Turkey, almost alone, by the way, which is not a great place to be in, isn't it? And hopefully Greece will deal with the situation, and if it comes to some existential threats to Greece, I'm quite sure Russia will still help it, no matter the anti-Russian actions of the current Greece leadership. Still, and no matter, despite this aggressive Russophobia that was pushed on Greece public, Russia will still help it, by the way, because we see Greek people as our brothers anyways, and sisters, right? No hatred towards Greece here, by the way, but unfortunately in Greece there is a hatred towards Russia now, which is truly sad, right? But I have to check on your news, Nidish. I missed it. I guess I don't know what France and Turkey did together. I can guess, maybe they reached some agreement to work on some gas fields in the Mediterranean, while ignoring Greece or something. Maybe this is the case. I don't think. I don't know. I just As I said, there's so many things, by the way, that I don't know. I try to follow the news as much as I can, but sometimes I'm successful with it. Sometimes, some stuff might happen and I completely missed it, which is shame, but we are just humans, isn't it? Maria Palmer is, hello Maria. Maria Palmer is commenting, unfortunately, Greece is owned by the EU. I have to agree with you, dear friend. This is truly unfortunate, and I cannot wrap my mind around the current situation when Greece is positioned as a hostile nation to Russia. I mean, this is nonsense, by the way. This is, as I said, there will be always love and respect to Greek people, by the way, no matter what. But here, right, they are our Orthodox brothers and sisters. But government of Greece, by the way, I mean, that's a whole different story, Oh, Shannon Cunningham is commenting, France sold weapons to Turkey, I think. Really? That's quite stuff. And Nidish Kumar is commenting also that France stopped supplying weaponry to Greece, which they promised against Turkey. Armenia must look closely what they are getting into, trusting France. Well, that's quite a development there. Thank you, Nidish, for this information. I did not knew about it. So this is a really serious development. And well, yet again, not just Armenia, but Greek people also should think about future of their country and with whom Athens are allying itself, And well, Armenia is the same story, of course. Armenia is even more difficult situation if you take a look at their geography, right? And currently, US and France are playing quite a critical role in and messing around Armenia quite a lot, isn't it? And in Southern Caucasus in general. So, well, that's quite interesting. information. Wow, I did not see this coming, by the way. And dear friends, I see no question right now. Sorry if I miss any, dear friends. If I may, I will go through some reports, excuse me, on the Telegram. You might find it interesting also. And then if any questions, I will try to answer. If not, then we can wrap it up and the update. We already had quite good conversation, isn't it? And I'm grateful to all of you, dear friends, for attention and support, for coming into this stream, for your comments. And let's go through this post that I made on Telegram today. Viktor Orban characterized the recent gathering in Europe as a bad, dangerous, and mistaken. He was about this meeting that took place in London, meeting of there all sorts of Russophobes that were pushing for war. Also, I believe I reported about this. Trump will meet with the American officials on March 3 to consider the possibility to take a number of measures against Kyiv, including the termination of military aid. New York Times reported about it earlier. And well, let's see. Today is the 3rd of March, isn't it? In US, it's probably, or it depends in which coast of US you are, but it's probably close to afternoon now on the East Coast. I don't know. Let's see what information will come out from Washington. Also interesting news that introduction by the United States of a comprehensive import duties of 25% on the entire range of goods from the EU could cost the Union 1.5% of its GDP, according to Bloomberg. And well, 1.5% of GDP, that's when it comes to entire EU economy. But some countries obviously gonna get hurt much bigger than 1.5%, because their levels of imports to US, let's say from Poland, is on one level, from Romania on another, and from France on whole different level, isn't it? Or from the Germany. So therefore, if Trump will go ahead with 25% tariffs, that will be some devastating stuff for European economies and many businesses that will basically have no choice but to move their production into US. You know, that will further accelerate the industrialization of the EU for sure. And dear friends, unfortunately, there is a huge massive fires in Japan, worst wildfires in last 30 years. Unfortunately, one person was killed, thousands evacuated, 1,700 firefighters are tackling this wildfire, and a dozen of helicopters are involved. Well, unfortunate development there, of course. Miss me with it is asking, I am very concerned of Israel false flagging Iran and getting US involved. What implications will that have, considering agreement with Russia, Iran? Well, that's a big danger, isn't it? That's a big danger. But right now, I'm a little more optimistic that Israel will not go ahead with this idea of striking Iran, because according to some sources, by the way, and you know, as we all do, by the way, we constantly read some news and listen to some news, isn't it? We might miss sometime something, but we always are in this field, isn't it? And there are reports that Israel now is actually asking US for help in terms of Russian military bases in Syria. Israel wants Russian bases to stay in Syria, to somehow keep Turkey in check, and the Damascus regime also, which is quite a shift in policies of Israel, because just recently it was the very same Israel that was sending some weapons to Ukrainian Nazis and the fascists, isn't it? And well, Israel did find itself right now in a situation when it's bordering actually Turkish proxy, right? They remove Assad's regime, and Israel was also involved in this whole operation. But now they are facing the reality when in Damascus there is a regime that is a proxy of Turkey. And Turkey, as we know, is challenging Saudi Arabia for leadership in a Sunni world, Sunni Muslim world, right? And during the recent tragic events in Palestine, Turkish leadership did make quite strong statements in regards to Israel, isn't it? And one may argue, well, statements mean nothing, or actions matter more, and I agree with that. Actions definitely matter more. But we also have reports that Turkey is planning to deploy its air force into Syria, F-16 fighter bombers, some other stuff, and this is right next to Israeli border, right? So Israel is definitely, I think, not in a situation right now to escalate with Iran also. They might go ahead with this crazy idea to strike Iran's nuclear facilities, but I think Netanyahu's regime will think twice, because they may actually push Israel into a situation from where there will be no way out. So therefore, I think chances that Israel will strike on Iran is little less now, currently, than I would say like 2 months ago. But still, there is such a risk, isn't it? There is such a risk, and we also had reports that U.S. already transferred to Israel weapon systems that could be used by Israeli forces to conduct such strikes, such attack on Iran. But I think if we take in account all the developments that are taking place right now, including inside the Syria itself, by the way, where Israeli-backed Druze and Christian ethnic minorities or religious minorities are rising up now, and actually they are organizing rebellion, as I reported in this morning's update, right? And I mean, Israel has too much issues on its hands. I don't think it wants now like next scale of escalation with Iran also, which will further destroy relationships of Israel with its neighbors, also with Russia, potentially with the countries worldwide, including with India, by the way. India is a big supporter of Israel, but India also has a big interest in Iran, right? In north-south trade route. So therefore, I don't think Israel will go ahead with their attacks on Iran, at least right now, in next several months for sure. But yet again, this is just my reading on the big picture. Who knows? Maybe I'm wrong on that. Daz is commenting, Levan, have you ever read the Rand Corporation policy paper from 2019 called Extending Russia? If not, you should read it. I have read some papers from Rand, just fragments, by the way, usually ones that are reported in media. But Rand, I know Rand Corporation. Rand is a bigger or influential think tank in the West, and I have to pay close attention to its papers for sure, to work of its analysts. Nidish Kumar is commenting, Luan, I hope Bangladesh will not become Ukraine of South Asia. They are behaving very aggressively with India, blocking border fencing, construction, etc. Well, I mean, you have a point, Nidish, for sure. I think in what happened into Bangladesh was Pakistan involved, Turkey was involved, some other countries that Maybe China was involved, by the way, through some stranger ways, because there are certain groups that want India to be weakened, to be stressed, right? And definitely there is a risk, by the way, that Bangladesh will collapse. Bangladesh will be engulfed in internal confrontation first of all, and then all that situation may jeopardize India's security, isn't it, on eastern borders? So it is a risk. It is a risk, but hopefully there are more people in Bangladesh that remembers India's role. India saved them, isn't it? For God's sake, India saved the people of Bangladesh. So they have to wake up to reality. They have to be grateful, for God's sake. And if anyone pushing for some crazy stuff against India, they should be checked. That's how it is, man. But unfortunately, I mean, we all know that economical, social situation in Bangladesh is really, really bad, and will get worse, I guess, under current leadership. And there are risks that Bangladesh may turn into some turmoil, and regional threat is definitely there. I have to agree with you 100%. And dear friends, maybe I should unfortunately, dear friends, I have to report about this also. Today, just a couple of hours ago, there was a car ramming attack again in Germany. 2 people were killed there, over 2 dozen injured, 15 are in serious conditions. This is latest information. Maybe after I published this news, there was some additional reports on that, but yet another terrorist attack in Germany's Mannheim. That was a terrorist attack. What else that could be, isn't it? And I guess investigation will classify this attack as a terrorist one. Unfortunately, these car ramming attacks in Europe are becoming are happening as often as these tragic mass shootings in US, which is unfortunate. But that's just an objective reality that there is. And I also shared there, as I do quite often, some videos of battles in Kursk salient area in the zone of special military operation. In this particular video, there is you can see Ukrainian armored group is trying to move around their positions in the Kursk salient, and Russian drone operators find them and destroy. And also, dear friends, I will end this update, if I may, on this news that Pete Hegseth, head of Pentagon, orders to suspend offensive cyber and information operations against Russia, according to Axios. At the end of 2021, US sent a cyber expert to Ukraine month before the conflict began. So if US is ending these cyber operations against Russia now, well, that can be seen as one more step towards the escalation, for sure. This is something of positive. So good, if it's true. Yet again, this is reported by Axios, and who knows, are they correct or not on that? Nidish Kumar is asking, Levan, does Russia has a parliamentary troops for internal insurgencies? I used to have, by the way, there was a Внутренние войска, internal forces, that was the name. This was creation of Soviet Union. There was armed forces that were not allowed to operate inside the country. And there was internal forces. And it was a mix of armored groups and also riot police. Внутренние войска, that was the name. But then, and for some time, that was the same in Russia too, when Soviet Union collapsed. But now there is a Rosguardia. these internal forces that were part of Ministry of Internal Affairs. These internal forces were transformed into Rosguardia, and it's a guard, by the way. It's a guards now, right? As US has a guards that are deployed inside the country, outside the country. Russia has these guard forces also, National Guard, and for example, counter-terrorist operations quite often are done by National Guards, and that's why National Guards are playing crucial role in Kursk salient area, for example. It's not an armed forces mainly that are conducting operations, it's National Guard and units of the National Guard. All the armed forces, of course, are supporting with aviation, with their artillery, whatever is necessary, right? And some time ago in 2024, there was reports that a number of Russian MPs were recommending to begin arming National Guard as with heavy equipment, as Russian armed forces are armed. And I don't know if that decision did pass Parliament or if such a decision was made on an official level, but probably something like that will be done, and the National Guard will become more heavily armed than it is right now. But yes, answer is yes. Russia does has a not paramilitary. It's official part of the Ministry of Interior Affairs. This National Guard. But yes, such an institution exists here to deal with the internal disturbances. Let's say this way, and the majority of counter-terrorist operations are conducted by these units of the National Guard, together with their special services, of course, secret services that are conducting their own operation to neutralize terrorists of all sorts. And for example, today there was a report that Russian FSB neutralized terrorists. So Russian FSB eliminated a terrorist who was planning attacks on Moscow's metro and the synagogue. And during the operation, that terrorist did not surrender straight away. He was armed, and FSB special forces just neutralized him on the spot. So yes, answer is yes on that. And dear friends, if I may, I will end this update now. Hopefully you will find this conversation interesting and useful. Many thanks to all of you for participating, for your comments, answers. I learned quite a lot, by the way, when I'm reading these comments, so truly grateful. This is it for now. Have a wonderful day, and obviously many thanks also to all the members of our community who will watch this video in a recording. So this is it for now. Have a wonderful day and take care. See you tomorrow.